Thank you for listening to Return to Roots Mil2Vet Resource Podcast, where we document our shared experiences, stories, and transitioning and reintegrating from the military to the community. For more information, go to mil2vet.com. If you have little ears, ensure you listen to the content before you allow them to listen. And if you are in crisis and homelessness, suicide ideations, or incarceration, dial 211 Courage to call for assistance. Now, stand by for the sound of freedom.
Return to Roots. Today, we interview Mr. Paul Peng. He's a U.S. Army veteran with 2 combat action tours. He's provided training for our allied security forces during the global war on terrorism. He's liaised between U.S. and foreign forces and worked closely with foreign dignitaries. Holds multiple certifications from NRA, California's Bureau of Security and Investigative Services, to include personal defense. He's an active Department of Justice firearms instructor. And last but not finally inclusive, he is trained on active shooter response and is a first-line medical instructor. He's published with United States Concealed Carry Association's Concealed Carry Magazine and U.S. Veterans Magazine. And a little added bonus coolness, he hits the movie set. 2 productions, The 4 Points and The Charisma Killers, where he was the set armor, a stunt coordinator, and an actor. Today, he joins us to share his experiences and his transition of his story to our tribe. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Peng, welcome, brother.
Thank you guys for having me. That every time I hear my biography, I cringe a little bit and die a little bit inside. So it's weird.
Come on, man, you got some big caliber stuff on there, dude.
So the whole, by the way, the whole actors angle is a stretch. Now, when I say actor, it's just one of those things where, hey, we need an Asian guy on screen. You want to be it? Sure, go ahead. But my primary thing is mainly make sure the actors don't look like they just held a weapon for the first time 5 minutes ago. So that's my primary.
Man, that's yeah, still regardless though, I mean, it's still pretty cool actually. It's you get somebody going into the Hollywood side, it's like, a lot of guys in Hollywood are always talking about how they're anti-gun violence and a lot of things with guns and like firearms and stuff like that. But I've always seen a kind of an irony, like, it's almost like if you were so anti-gun violence, we'd almost stop glorifying it there in the Hollywood scene. But I don't know, you ever think there's a certain irony in that, moving over to working with the Hollywood?
So here's the thing, right? I can't speak for everybody in Hollywood. Now, I am going to say that probably the perception is that mainstream Hollywood is, anti-gun or whatever. But at the end of the day, Hollywood is money, so they'll go wherever the money goes. And one of the things I found out was that there's a lot of actors and actresses in Hollywood that I found out that actually do enjoy shooting, but they cannot openly say it. That I do know.
Yeah, that's a shame, man. I grew up shooting when I was young. My wife and I even talk about like, hey, when do I let my children shoot? And I really think it's a mentality thing, not really an age thing. If they can demonstrate maturity to a certain level of, obviously the parents choosing, I think it's important to train your kids on all the basic rules, and then eventually show them how to use a weapon, because that's what makes us such a unbeatable foe, is because if anybody were to invade this country, underneath every rock and inside of every bush and tree would be an armed citizen.
Do you know the number 2 most armed state in the United States is? Well, first of all, do you know what the most armed state in the country is?
Are you talking about per capita or total number of weapons?
Per person.
Per person, I'd probably argue Alaska. I'd probably argue Alaska.
Tustin?
No, Alaska. I'd probably suggest Alaska if it was per capita.
No, it's not Alaska. Alaska's actually pretty far down the list. It's actually Texas, number 1, which is not surprising. Wow, Texas. Yeah, that's not surprising at all. But number 2 is actually California. We're the second most armed state in the whole country, which is kind of funny because I don't know how you would roll over and die for all of these anti-gun laws, but it's kind of, I don't want to get too political, but the Constitution has the right to bear arms as the Second Amendment right behind the freedom of speech. I mean, if people actually studied the Constitution, they would realize that the Fourth Amendment is the right to not be search and seizure, right? You have to have a warrant in order for the federal or state agencies to search your house, right? You have to have a warrant to search your house. That's number 4. So the right to bear arms is above that.
Agreed.
That should tell you something, right? But people don't, like I always have a joke, like people always know what Kim Kardashian, what Kim Kardashian ate last Friday, or who she's dating now, but nobody has any idea what their own damn rights are.
Yeah. I think people just don't understand what rights and privileges are. They think that they're the same. We have the privilege, right, of being able to drive, being able to get the license, being able to call ourselves citizens of this great country. But it's a right is something that can't be taken away. Privileges could be taken away. Now, they shouldn't be taking away our rights, right?
They shouldn't be, but they try really hard.
They try really hard. I'm not, and this isn't political. Rights should not be taken away. There's a reason we have certain rights, but
freedom of speech is not really is a right that's been taken away. People can't say what they want anymore.
Well, just like, and this is where I'm going with this, is just like the right for bearing a weapon. You have freedom of speech, but you gotta train towards it, because if you walked around and told everybody to fuck off, you're gonna get punched in the face one day. It's literally the repercussions for not being properly trained with your words. So speaking of that, man, what got you into getting into firearm training?
Well, prior to this, I was working at the ports. So I wasn't on the union side. I was on the management side, and did that for 10 years. And I had a conversation with an Uber driver one day, and he was like, "Hey, you'll be good at this." And I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki, and then after I finished that book, I decided to take a leap of faith and invested $3,500 in my business, and 4 years later, here we are. So,
bro, that Richard Kiyosaki, man, that guy. Did you know that he got in trouble for flying a helicopter to go pick up chicks?
He also got in trouble for flying helicopter to buy gold.
Yeah, this dude did so much crazy things. He would get in so much trouble, man.
And now he's a millionaire.
So what? Yeah, in trouble. That's just haters hating.
I mean, I'm not hating, man. That guy it just cracks me up. He's incredibly intelligent.
Yeah. Smart. He's also he was a Marine too. He was a Marine pilot in Vietnam.
Yeah.
No kidding, dude. I didn't know he's a Marine. No kidding.
Yeah. He's a Marine. He flew helicopters. That's how he flew helicopters to pick up chicks in uniform, and then flew helicopters into enemy territory to buy gold.
Oh man. Well, tell you what, with regard to as far as business, so I was taking a look at some of the things that you'd submitted to U.S. Veterans Magazine, and along the line what you were talking about. So you're, I believe it's going to be your first and second contributions to U.S. Veterans Magazine. You were speaking about entrepreneurship and the lessons that you learned. So I would want to believe that. Are you saying that's what you started Up Century Institute? What you're doing now? Is that correct?
Yeah. So I mean, what's your question? You mean as far as like what did I learn?
So Well, no, I'm just getting my timeline there. So, like me personally, having owned a business only for a few years, man, I know exactly what the benefit is, and I will never, never, never not have at minimum an LLC for something again in my life. But this is your story. But my question would be to you would be, what do you see as the most important character trait that veterans possess that help us be successful entrepreneurs, or would be successful entrepreneurs? And why do you believe that not enough of us do it?
Honestly, the one of the biggest the traits that veterans have is the discipline for a goal, right? I mean, a lot of veterans, the reason why after they leave service, that I believe that they feel lost is because they no longer have a mission. They don't know what to do, right? When you're in country for a year and a half, your sole purpose was train police officers or train soldiers, not us, but like the Iraqi soldiers or the Iraqi police officers or whatever. Go on mounted patrols, right? Do your thing, right? Make sure that you stay alive. Your whole job was to stay alive. That's your goal, right? Do your job and stay alive. That's it. You don't have to worry about what clothes you wear. You don't have to worry about what socks you wear. You don't have to worry about laundry. You don't have to worry about food. You have to worry about housing. None of that. Government takes care of all that stuff. You just worry about surviving and doing your job. And then when you when you leave, you sign your DD-214 and they kick you out the door and says, congratulations, you're civilian. Thank you for serving our country. And then you're looking at the vastness of the civilian space and you're like, what the hell do I do now? Right. So they start listening to different avenues like, oh, you should go to college and get your degree. You should jive it, which is great, but a lot of veterans still don't have a purpose. So they fall into depression. That's what I think. Because that's basically what happened to me. I had no idea what I was going to do. I was like this important person in Iraq, talking to dignitaries and literally building schools and not churches, but building schools and playgrounds and renovating police stations and creating, having goats and for dinner and slaughtered in the freaking back somewhere in the police station and served up in the front somewhere. But we were doing important stuff. And then you come back and I was working at a U-Haul. That's depressing. I'm just, just for context reasons, right? But a lot of times it's like veterans don't realize that as soon as they find that goal, they can get there. I mean, talk about suffering. I don't think, and a lot of times there are people saying like, oh, starting a business is hard. It's risky. I'm like, and risking your life in a war zone isn't?
Man, this country was founded on risk. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like one of our biggest things was to be able to make that challenge, to be able to take the biggest monarch and the strongest military at the time in the history of the world and told them where to go. And then we're going to continue to do great things and then believe in yourself and continue to push west and continue to do things and continue to fend for yourself. And here's our rights that 9 of 13 state, well, I guess the 11 of 13 eventually bought into, and that's exactly what it's about. Is it worthy? And anything worth fighting for is worth the pain.
Mm-hmm. So, and I think that, but like I was saying, that the reason I think a lot of veterans don't do it is because, they fall back into the family friends trap. That's what I like to call it, the family friend trap. Right. Oh, you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do that, or I don't know if this is a good idea, or no, this is not a good idea. You should just do this. Be safe. Right. I mean, I guess maybe the reason I started doing it was because I didn't really have that great of a relationship with family at all. So I didn't really give a crap what they said. I just did my own thing anyways. So that might have been what the edge I needed to kind of break away and start the business anyways. I got a lot of flack too when I first started my business. Oh my God. Flack came from everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. And most of it came from family and friends.
And that's sad, man.
Why is it that you are like, because I know as business owners, we all talk, but what in your experience is the reason that the closest people to us are our biggest naysayers? I mean, what is that?
I don't know. You would think they'd be your supporters, but they're not. At least well, I'm not saying that hasn't been the case, but in my particular case, I lost a lot of friends over this business because I'm like, if you're not going to support it, excuse my French, but fuck you. Right.
Is it because of what you're doing and what your mission is that you want to teach American citizens or anybody that
No, just it wasn't even what I did. It was the mere fact that I started a business to begin with. Right. And a lot of it was also because I had a good paying job at the port too. It was a really good paying job. And, you know, in the middle of the pandemic, I got laid off. And then I literally went from, I think it was like making over 10 grand a month to, I think my first paycheck was like $500. And I had a mortgage and a car payment and bills and internet and cell phone, you know, so it didn't add up. And my VA compensation at the time, even combined with my unemployment, was not even near what I needed just to survive. So I kind of got in a desperation mode that threw everything I had behind this business. Plus, I think a lot of times, like for me, like I think a lot of veterans, when when they get insulted or kind of beat down by their own family members and friends, they get discouraged, right? The natural reaction is to get discouraged. Like, you know what, you're right. I'm not going to do it anymore. I give up. I'm going to go back to my regular 9 to 5 job. And for me, it was the exact opposite. It would piss me off to the point where I would want to prove them wrong. So again, I don't know. I mean, that's the reason why I decided to stick to it. I don't know why it works for other veterans. I know Robert Kiyosaki had a very similar experience. His dad, then again, it might just be an Asian thing. I don't know. It might just be an Asian thing. I'm not sure.
Hey, I didn't want to say nothing, but
Yeah, it could just be an Asian thing. I don't know. But
well, but there's people out there that have that. It's not just an Asian thing. I'm just messing with you because there's people that have small-minded people that are around them that don't think big. For example, if you live in Oklahoma or even some of the even more rural areas out here, I was born in Oklahoma. It's like talk smack. They may, if you said, you know, I want to start a clothes apparel line, they may look at you like, nah, that's stupid. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to be like, oh, man, yeah, you totally do it. You know, like I support you. Like I may not buy something from you, but I'm going to tell everybody that you're doing that.
yeah, they don't. That's not the response you get. You get
Yeah.
the exact opposite.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm not asking you guys to buy my stuff. I'm asking you just to tell other people about my stuff. That's it. That's it. That's all I'm asking.
You
That's
know what's
it.
funny to date? I've had my business for 4 years now, almost 4 years now. Not one sale has been to family or friends in the entire 4 years. Not one. I haven't had a single one.
Man.
Interesting, isn't it?
One of the things I always kind of found interesting too is like the difference between like the big business and the small business, you know, because I would argue that small business owners really go out of their way to sit there and make sure their name is right. Anything that their name touches or their check pays for or whatever, they make sure. Now, people will go to Burger King knowing their order is guaranteed 4 out of 5 times to be screwed up. Knowing you're going to go to Walmart, knowing that you're going to freaking have to check yourself out and you're not going to get an invitation to the employee Christmas party at the end of the year. Knowing you're going to just do whatever the big business you're going to, but the minute you go to a real restaurant, dude, and they just overcooked your steak that one time, dude, you ordered medium, dude, it came out a little bit too heated. You know, oh, I'm never coming back to this place again. It's trash, you know, and it's just like, oh, look, it's the little guy. It's almost borderline passive bulliness in a way. Not really, that's a horrible word, but just passive, like, aggression towards, you know, I've never really been able to put my finger on it, you know, like why such a blind loyal support for the big established things. Oh, we need people to compete with this because the big guys are getting too big. Oh, look over there, here's 100 little guys sitting there trying to make those guys look like dopes, and they can do it with the service and the quality, but we just ain't going to invest in them. I mean, it appalls me, really.
Well, I mean, a lot of it, you're thinking about it from one side, right? So it's kind of interesting. Like I've actually, and again, I'm not going to say I know everything because I sure as hell shit don't. But one of the things I'm trying to look into is, you know, for example, right now I'm trying to play Monopoly in real life. Right? So how do you win Monopoly? 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. I don't know about the hotel part, but I'll try to get the 4 greenhouses, right? Because the hotel just for right now, it just seems like too much headache. But as far as like the 4 greenhouses, It's basically on and on investments, right? And how do you kind of subsidize all those investments? And a lot of it has to comes along with what, to your question of why do you blindly go to Target or Walmart or whatever, and you support them? Because a lot of it is honestly convenience, right? If you have a good person that's 15 minutes away that will treat you like royalty, but he's 15 minutes away and Walmart's literally 2 minutes away, and you have a screaming kid and a husband that don't do jack shit at home, then yeah, you're gonna just go the easy route and buy that and come back and go back to your life. But I think a lot of it too is, I think, and the thing is, like I said, to your question about veterans, about what it is, we have the discipline to get out of anything that we put our minds to. The problem is we need to know what that is. And I think that's where a lot of veterans fall down, is that they put a lot of their energy behind something, right? That's probably a lot of times influenced by family and friends. That's probably not something they actually want to do or fully understand. And then when they fail at it, they just get freaking deflated.
So let me ask you though, working on the in your next contribution called The Mindset, you speak to what can be a daunting transition of of all the services reintegration. Now, on this particular show that that Chris and Yogi put together, like 99% of everybody, with the exception, you're the 1% here, have all been conventional forces. So maybe a little bit of insight. Could you speak to some of the differences between reintegration of the conventional forces as they contrast to, say, the challenges of a member of the special operations groups?
I mean, as far as conventional forces, I wouldn't even say I was a reservist, right? But I just joined up at the right time or wrong time, depending on how you see it. Because I mean, if you don't want to go to war, I certainly joined up at the wrong time, because my reserve status was, hey, by the way, we're going to war, so your ass is I literally looked at my DD-214. I think between 2 deployments and all the little mini deployments I had as a reservist, I think I had almost 3 years and 11 months and 8 days of active service, which is just shy of the 4 years that active duty guys are required to serve. And I'm like, well, okay, yeah, I'm a reservist, but oh yeah, wow, I'm a whopping 10 days shy of an active duty person. Okay, yeah, dude, whatever. All right. But as far as how am I going to say this?
I mean, don't say anything that you're not you can't say. I mean, I ain't saying if there's stuff that was when you did that interview, that you can't talk about. I mean, I ain't trying to.
No. But I mean, your question was what mindset is between the differences between the conventional forces and
what would be the differences between reintegration at, say, conventional forces? It seemed like we'd all kind of be similar, and but contrasting to the member of the special operations. I mean, dude, those guys are elite in what they do. They're elite warfighters with mindsets completely different, which is why they succeed in that so well. Exceptionally intelligent. So I was curious as the differences between them.
Yeah, and even in the special forces community, I think a lot of them suffer from PTSD, and a lot of them have actually taken their own lives. Right. If you guys have ever, I think, what was it? No Way Out was a show. I think it was by a former Green Beret. I forgot his name right now. Jesus. But it's a play that was actually played by a former Green Beret. I think he was part of the Pineapple Express when Biden would, well, I don't want to say Biden, but the U.S. administration in office would not get our allies out of Afghanistan when we were pulling out of Afghanistan. So they had the Pineapple Express that, former special forces guys that went in on their own and did it. But anyways, yeah, the play No Way Out, a lot of it has to do with a lot of his own life and what he went through. Right. And it's basically a story about, him being a Green Beret, and then he ends up dying. And then the whole play is about him flashing through his entire life. From the very first day he was in selection to meeting his wife to having his kid, and then at the end of the day, his kid joins the military just like him, and his dad's dead, right? But it's actually a really, really cool play. But he talks about how a lot of special forces guys, they just, they commit suicide. This guy, ate his own gun. This guy did this. This guy did that. And I was talking to actually one of the contributors to my book, Jason Tushin. He's a retired Command Master Chief Navy SEAL. I think it was like 27 or 28 years. Um, he he says that a lot of special forces guys, they just wanted, for him, he just wanted a challenge again. I'm like, well, what do you mean? You're a Navy SEAL. I don't think that every day is a challenge for you. He goes, no, I had my own parking spot. Like I was drinking lattes and Slurpees all day long, right? He goes, I wanted a challenge, so he left the SEALs, and he's starting a tech company. But he also realizes that there's a lot of people that leave the special forces community that don't have the support, that end up falling into depression. So, I mean, from again, I don't want to speak for anybody here because I want to misinterpret, but from the information that I've gathered, there is very little difference between conventional forces and special operations in terms of transition. I think it's the same. I think a lot of it is, it's support right now. Like I was talking about earlier, you have two types of reactions. You can have the support you need and then you can thrive, or you could not have the support you need and you could literally fall down a dark hole. Or in my case, you can say, fuck you to everybody and prove everybody wrong.
Which I'm sure is like a little bit of self-serving satisfaction there occasionally, especially when that mission has succeeded, because you take that fueled by years and years of naysayers or whatever, and then now I'm going to do this. And for some, I mean, maybe that's the fuel.
Yeah, but again, I'm pretty sure when I say that, when I use the term, like use everybody's fuel as your fires, I'm pretty sure I'm the outlier. I don't think everybody operates that way. I think pretty sure a lot of people don't operate that way. That's why, everyone always says you want to have a good support system right now. The good news is that right now my fiance supports everything that I do. So don't get me wrong, I love that. So for right now, it's amazing, right, to have that support system because it makes me go stronger. But it's always good to push out of love more so than like anger, because eventually that fire does burn out.
Yeah, losing your purpose, man, is something that we all end up doing, getting out. And I honestly, like what you said, losing our purpose, not having our mission anymore, is one of the biggest contributors to depression and suicide. It's even whenever you do have, like, man, I know sometimes, because I didn't get out necessarily on my own accord. Yeah, I did the Fleet Reserve, I did my 20 years, but I was trying to make I was trying to get one more rank higher, you know what I'm saying? So I I necessarily did not get out how I imagined. So there's occasions, even though, like, look at me, man. I'm I'm not like underneath a bridge. I'm sitting in my own shop. I'm doing well. I'm fine. But even though I still get that depression because I'm not doing what I like loved doing in the military, man. Just any kind of problem or anything that would come up, the chaos and being part of this solution to every time some chaos came up. And that was damn near addicting, and
No, I get it.
yeah, not having that anymore, it gets kind of like, well, I feel kind of depressed.
Well, I mean, like, remember what I said about, using that anger and feeling that fire to kind of prove people wrong. It's kind of like, when I say that, it sounds kind of awesome, but it's also, I want to remind people that it's a double-edged sword, right? Because anger goes both ways. It can go to fuel you, to kind of motivate you to kind of prove people wrong and make sure this business is successful. But it could but for years, I also suffered with anger issues, right? Because my post-traumatic, I would go from 0 to 10 in like a freaking fraction of a second. So the anger does have its downside too, and it got me in trouble more than once. Almost got me fired twice. So, so it's not. I don't want your viewers to think that, oh, he has anger, but he used it in a positive way. I'm like, no. Anger is just anger. I could redirect it, but that redirection only lasts so long before it goes back the other way.
And I totally get using haters to fuel feel your fire, because sometimes I love the whole entire, oh, I'm not supposed to be able to do that. Hold my beer. And like, that's kind of how I live my life. I love breaking those little molds that they try to put us into. You can't put
Yeah.
us when we try to conform to a mold, we're going to eventually break that mold or break ourselves. Something's going to break. We're designed differently. In my opinion, most veterans are designed to be successful at everything they do. It's what we're trained to do over and over again.
Yeah, and a
And I'm,
lot of it too. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
and I'm not saying everybody should go out and start their own business. That's not what I'm saying. I'm
No, I mean it's starting a business. Look, honestly, I read. So being a veteran is just one part, right? Like me, the other part of it is I don't want to work until I'm 65. I don't. I'm sorry. I want to retire early. I want to travel the world. I want to see the freaking Coliseum at least one time before I die. I don't want to see it in a documentary. I want to see it for real. Right. I want to eat at a fancy restaurant, just once in my life versus just seeing on it, looking at it, I'll take whatever, right? But I also know that I can't be stupid with my money and be what a lot of people would call fake rich, right? And when I say fake rich, I'm talking about those young people walking around with Gucci bags and Louis Vuitton purses and what and all this other stuff, and they're like broke as hell because there's no way in hell, unless they started like a multi-million-dollar company, that they would be wearing that stuff on a regular basis. And even the mere fact is, every rich person I've ever met that's a millionaire, if you literally looked at them, you would literally think they would make 30,000 a year or 40,000. They don't look rich. Rich people don't look rich.
Well, that's like Napoleon Hill talks about in the book Millionaire Next Door. It's exactly that. He's not trying to keep up because it costs a lot of money to look that spendy.
Exactly. And one of the things that I've realized is when I want a goal, I wanted to retire. Like, but that was my goal, is to retire early. And my business is a tool. It is a pathway. It is one step to that. My business isn't necessarily my goal. It is just a tool to get there. If that makes any sense. And then in my business, I want to make sure that I take advantage of all the tax advantages. Dude, my first year, I think my tax guy, I think I gave him $100 tip, because I literally sat there and I grilled him for about an hour and a half on every freaking tax break that I can take legally. So
Actually, come to think of it, that wasn't Hill, that was Stanley. I'm getting my dudes mixed up. But even though Hill's another one of those guys that's in there with the Dave Ramseys and all those guys. It's always trying to. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's this bald dude and kind of like what you're talking about. And he always listens to a thing. He gives his input. This Edward certified. And
oh yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah. I know.
always talking about, if he doesn't have all the context, he doesn't speak to it.
Like, and this is, when I started figuring things out was, I call this the triage treatment. Dave Ramsey is my triage. You want to triage on your finances? Dave Ramsey. When you don't know, shit about shit, Dave Ramsey's going to help you figure out what's what, and he's going to tell you grandma's way of how to save money. And just remember, guys, he's not certified as a financial advisor, but he just talks common sense that just works. And a lot of us don't have that, and this is actually a true testament of our culture. A lot of us do not have the ability to budget, the ability to control ourselves. Self-control is out the window, and it's pretty evident when you look out there at the obesity ratings, at the heart conditions because of sugar. People say, I want more, want. That's a whole bunch of redheaded stepchilds. Thank you, Dave Ramsey, for that line. But it's
easy, dude. I resemble that. I'm a redheaded stepchild, so
yeah, a lot of nooches run around.
I
But
mean, a lot of it too is, but you're absolutely right, right? And a lot of it is, and this is, goes back to why think veterans, if they want to, they can become good entrepreneurs, is because they do have that self-control. If they have the purpose behind it. If they have no purpose behind it, what's the point of self-control?
Did
ex-
you did you capitalize on the veteran entrepreneur, like of the things that are out there for veterans to be able, like, did you get your veteran owned badge for your business and the things that went into that? What tools are out there for transitioning vets that, hey, I'm gonna start a business. All right, cool. Where do you send them to start going, and like what's their initial vector?
Honestly, okay. Now, I'm not saying it's not helpful, but at least for me, you have to understand that my business is security and certifications, and firearms training, right? So it's not. I did not find any of that helpful. Zero, none of it. I have it. I have the veterans. I have the disabled veterans. What is that? The certification. I have the DVBE. I have the other one, the SDVOSB, which is Service Disabled Veteran Owned Small Business through the Department of Veteran Affairs. That's for going after government contracts. Did absolutely zero for that one for me. But again, that's my industry. I'm not saying it's not going to be helpful for your industry. But if you're a veteran, if you want to get into like drone training, if you want to get into like production, right, making something, I would recommend that you look into the SDVOSB certification and the the Disabled Veterans Benefit certification or whatever, DVO something. Get all the certifications you can. My other thing is that I would also get the micro business certification. It's not a veteran certification; it's just a micro business certification because you get certain tax breaks for that, and that's absolutely free. But the thing is, nobody tells you how to do this, right? And I think that's a lot of the biggest hurdles is that nobody tells you how to do all these things, right? In school, it's like, oh, well, they tell you how to do this and tell you how to do that. And your job, you have training, right? They teach you how to do your job. So it's basically handed to you. But what I see is like, yeah, they'll hand you how to do a job. But after that, they handcuff you to that freaking computer until you're 65 and then you die. Right. And I think part of that is that, and people don't see that. And then when I tell them that stuff, they think I'm crazy. They do. And now it's kind of funny. A lot of the people that were laughing at me now that like 4 years later, are, and by the way, my company is just me. It's one person, just myself. My last CCW cohort was actually yesterday. I had Rami Zur. I didn't even know who that was. He goes, "Oh, I'm a coach." I'm like, "Cool. What do you coach?" And, I'm thinking, okay, basketball, high school football, baseball. No, Rami Zur. And I looked him up to make sure that I wasn't, and I compared the picture that I took to what I found on Wikipedia. It's the same person. He was an Olympic athlete. He played for Israel in 2000 and was in the U.S. Olympic 2004, and 2008. He's married to a Hungarian woman that won 2 gold medals for Hungary, and now because of that, he gets a freaking Hungarian pension and Hungarian citizenship because he's married. He coached a Hungarian gold medalist. I'm
How
like,
cool is that?
I have an Olympic athlete in my class. Holy and last week, I actually spoke at Disneyland. Like, how cool is that, right? Like, I speak, and I wasn't at like the main theme park. I was at the corporate building. So apparently Disney has this salute. Actually, hold on one second. Hold on.
so
That's pretty wild, Chris. That's like you start getting in. It's like, yeah, dude, check this out. This is my gold over here. That's indisputable, dude. Yeah, you're a badass.
But here's the thing. So I spoke at where did Jake go? I spoke at the Veteran Salute event, and it was literally about veteran entrepreneurship, right? About and it was to veterans that were working at the Disney Corporation, both on the corporate side and on the theme park side. And at the end of the thing, they gave me one of these. I don't know if you can see that, but let me get that.
Oh, dude, Mickey's got his own coin.
that coin.
Yeah, so that's the Disney Salute, and then on the back side of it has all the branches on it, including the new one that nobody knows what it does. So that was cool. And they also gave me this. I haven't read it yet, but planning on it. And no, it was just an awesome time. speaking to them. But yeah, I had like people from 4 years ago. They're just like, "Oh, how's it going?" Oh, now you want to say hi to me? Yeah, no, bye.
No, that's pretty dope, dude. Like I I get it. Like maybe family members don't really have the attention span, or friends may not have the attention span. But after 4 years, man, come on. Like, yeah, man.
So, but I mean, right now, the interesting thing is like, veterans can do it. You guys all have the ability. Like right now, my thing is to get into the asset game, investing in real estate. I'm gonna probably move out of California because I can't stand the state. Um, but that's just me. The taxes are too high. Everything is just BS. But
Well, they're doing it on purpose, by the
no,
way.
and what the getting people out part?
Yeah.
I don't know why they would do that, considering that the people that are leaving are their only taxpayers.
I like I don't want to go too far into the subject, but they're doing that shit on purpose. There's no other explanation on why it's so stinking.
Leave it be, dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna be gone. But
This is
either
happy
way,
time.
so I've been doing this business for about 4 years. My goal is to retire in 2, maybe less. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe less. Right, and part of that is to get my passive income stream up. And when I say passive income, is getting into real estate, renting out properties as much as possible, and then looking into the 3 different tax breaks that I can get for being a real estate investor, and then basically, uh, living off of the rent income that's not taxable because we take care of the tax advantages. So it's full 100% passive income, and that's what people don't understand is like there are ways to legally make money and not pay taxes on, and real estate is.
I like to call real estate semi-passive, unless you own a REIT. And then a REIT is going to be more passive. Or if you own an interest in a syndicate that's out there remodeling and you only have a portion of it. But rental properties are, in my opinion, they're not really, they're semi-passive because
They're fully passive. They're fully passive if you have the right CPA, and that's why I'm looking into it. Because one of the things me listening to and I'm not trying to plug the Rich Dad Talk Show at any point, but I have to because I learned so much from them. Because I even asked my CPA about this. He goes, "Where the hell did you learn that one from?" And he goes, "Yeah, you can deduct that, right?" And so for example, right now in real estate, there's amortization, which is basically you rent out a property and they pay your rent for you, so you're not actually paying anything. And then you have the increase in value of the property going up or down, right? Like a stock, right? Of whatever. And then you have the last one, you have appreciation. And the last thing you have what's called not demonetization, depreciation value.
Appreciation.
Right.
Yeah.
So by the way, that last part is what I found out where that's the reason why Donald Trump hasn't paid taxes in 12 years. That's why a lot of the real estate investors hasn't paid taxes, a single dime in taxes in over 20 years. Is because if you can get the right CPA, you can do it legally where you can account for, and I hope your readers understand this because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it legally. Is let's say you have a value, you have a house that's worth $100,000, right? And your monthly income is, let's say for rent is 1,000, right? Just say $1,000, so $12,000 a year, right? In passive or in what you call semi-passive income. Well, it's semi-passive because it's still income. So that's why it's semi-passive. You can only write off what once you write off. Did Chris just freeze?
No, I'm just really still.
Oh, okay. You can write off everything you spend on it. You can write off interest income and all that. But at the end of the day, you still gotta pay taxes on what's left over. So let's say it's 700-800. Let's say it's like $2,000 left over. You still gotta pay taxes on. That's where your semi-passive income statement comes from, right?
So the reason why I say semi is because anything that has to do with a physical item, you're going to have to do work on it, or hire somebody to do work on it, which meant that you had to lift your phone or lift your pen, write down stuff, or go swing hammers and go paint, go do whatever.
Right. So this is where you hire somebody to do it for yourself. But that's the thing is like what you can do is And this is kind of interesting. And this is why I found out that a lot of people, they buy up like older properties and they do what's called gentrification, right? The term is gentrification. They do that because they're doing what's called, they're increasing their NOI, net operating income,
Okay.
right? And the way they do that is if they can increase the net operating income, then what they can do is the investors. Now, this is on the higher end level that I'm just learning about right now. People that invest like millions of dollars, what they do is they increase their NOI by buying new, by doing what you said, right? Fixing toilets and doing all that, by hiring people to do it. And then about 2-3 years after they up their NOI, and now because everything's newer, they can increase their rent by, let's say, $100 a month or whatever. They go into the bank and they do what's called a cash out refi, and they pay back their investors, they pay back their thing, but at the same time, they also increase their monthly income. So to, let's say, $2,000. But the reason why I say depreciation is because that whole time, even though you're renovating everything, there's still other things that are breaking down. And that's the key to not paying taxes. So you take that depreciation value, let's say you make $100,000, but your depreciation value is $40,000, right? But let's say let's say your depreciation value is $60,000 a year, right? But your value, you make $100,000, your depreciation value is $60,000, but your expenses, including your home and food and everything else, is $50,000. So you're now, so even though you have $100,000 in your pocket, you're still at a net negative 10,000 because of the depreciation factor. So you don't pay taxes because, according to the IRS, because you accounted all that in, you're actually at a negative 10,000, even though you physically have 100,000 in your pocket.
Yeah, and everybody that's listening right now, this is not financial advice.
No, it's not financial. Please just do your due diligence.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely not.
It's I just want to make sure that we just iterate that, but you are onto some really important things that we need to start thinking about early on in our lives. So if you're a young person, I hope you're listening to this, because this is how you change your life. Passive income or semi-passive can really help you out. You never know, that first home that you bought 10 years, 20 years ago, you might realize, a property that you bought for 300,000 might end up selling for 800,000 in 15 years. And you, by the way, you got to collect all that rent and you didn't pay any of the mortgage. So you just literally just walked out, 15 years later with over $500,000 of profit.
Just keep in mind that if you sell that house, you got to pay capital gain. So you better buy another property soon.
You better roll that into your next thing real quick.
You do a 1031, and a 1031, I believe it's somewhere around, it's either 60 or 90 days that you have to have a house chose, and then it has to close within 180 days. So 1031 is a exchange. If you buy a house, you buy another house, it's got to be the same. It's got to be like $1 more or some crazy stuff like that. And that's where CPAs, you need to talk to CPAs, and you also need to talk to other specialists just for 1031s. And like that stuff right there, that's just one of the aspects of being a business owner. Having multiple things lined up, multiple streams is what we should be really working on. So you got your everyday job, and then you got your rental income, and then you got your business that you are starting, and then eventually you go from your everyday job into the business that you started. Just
and I'm not saying that starting your own business is easy. I'll be the first one to tell you, starting a business is freaking one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, bar none. And it's not even so much. And by the way, I think, Nooch, if you actually read some of my articles, I think you would have come across the statement of, I wanted to quit every day. There was a point.
It's exhausting. I used to love, especially once you're doing well. Oh, must be nice. And I was just like, you want all my freaking 19-hour days back? You want to freaking know what put in? You want to know, especially when you got NASIC, all this I can't stand the must be nice crowd, because that's just a whole bunch of people wanting to capitalize on your wins. Everybody wants to get in the line of wanting to win, but fewer people want to get into the line of wanting to do what it takes to win.
Right.
You know?
And the thing is, I can't tell you how many times people will tell me what you did. How did you get? I mean, I can tell you what I did, but it might not work for you because my circumstances were different. It's just basically what it. And by the way, it's the reason why I actually wrote this book. You know, so
Hey, you know what? Now that we got that plug there, man. So that officially, tell me if my intel's right. So that just dropped like officially today. Is that correct?
yeah, on Amazon and on my website. But you know, part of that all is writing about this book, and this book is not so much about. I don't know if you can see it, but this
Mhm.
book is not so much about. I mean, it says the philosophy of marksmanship. It doesn't say how to, right? This is not a how to book. I mean, if you want a how to book, I think there's like thousands of those already on Amazon as it is. I'm not going to be adding to that list. What this book talks about specifically, it talks about, you know, the 7 or the 6 aspects of it, right? The dangers of unregulated emotions, mindset, situational awareness, importance of fundamentals, safety, and the value of self-vulnerability. There are fundamental truths behind what you need to become a good marksman. But if you actually just read what I just said, it's not, you don't need that just to be a good marksman. You just need it to be a good person and to be a well-educated, well-guarded person, right? But I mean, we have pictures in here, but what we also do in this book is we actually have we have 7 chapters. At the beginning of every chapter is a short story from an actual person. So, and then, for example, like Jason Tushin, Jason Torrey, the 2 retired command master, chief Navy SEALs. We have one guy, Michael. He is a certified emergency medical doctor, MD, and works with the San Bernardino SWAT team. So he does both. And then we have Sergeant Major Jill Johnson, that's currently serving still as a U.S. Army Sergeant Major. But they all contributed their individual stories, and what we do is we tie those stories into why that particular philosophy is important, and then we use that to kind of tie it into marksmanship, right? So, so yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. So it's you know, people. There's a few people that have read it already. They liked it. They probably perhaps maybe wanted it longer, but then again, it is my first book, so it's my
Well,
first attempt.
man, first thing, dude, congrats, man. I mean, you're going from you had 4 articles there with U.S. veterans, a couple with U.S. CCA, and in taking a look at this, one of the questions I kind of wanted to ask is I was sitting there taking a look at the little abstract, kind of what it was talking about. I was wondering if I might be able to get you to for a few minutes talk about like the philosophies, like for instance, dangers of unregulated emotions, mindset, and situational awareness. How is it?
Sure.
How those 2 things are clearly so crucial to the importance of fundamentals and safety. And then finally, why is self-vulnerability so important?
So, I mean, when it comes to the book, right, we have the dangers of unregulated emotions. So the story is basically it's a story from Jason Torrey. He's their command master chief retired Navy SEALs, and this is his story basically how he basically let his emotions get the better of him when he was chasing a wanted AQI terrorist. His name was I have it right here. It's Abu Gadia. Real name is Badran Turki Hishan Al Mazidi. I can remember pronounce. Anyways, so long story short, he was going after this guy for a while, right? And what ended up happening was there's a sandstorm that was coming in, and he was advised that hey, you would literally have no air support because there's a sandstorm coming in, and if you got in trouble, we don't know if we can come help. And he didn't really care. As a matter of fact, he continued pursuing it because he thought that this was his one and only chance, and he was the head of the SEAL team, and he commanded the SEALs to go forward, and they did. And what ended up happening was one of the dogs that was with him ended up, I think, if I remember correctly, got hurt. And right when he got hurt, when the dog got hurt, not as one of the SEAL team members, thank God, but when the dog got hurt, they medevaced him by car or by Humvee because the air support was gone. Right, but only during when they medevaced him, when he finally made the decision to medevac, did he snap back to his senses. and finally realized that what he did was so dangerous. It could have ended up so much worse. Like he could have ended up in an ambush in somewhere, and they all would have died. He wouldn't know what have happened. Nobody would have known what had happened, right? So it's one of those things where it's unregulated emotions is very, very dangerous, and it's kind of ironic too, because I know that there's a lot of veterans that come home in the transition, like me, that had a lot of anger issues. And when I say a lot, I'm talking about a lot of anger issues. And one of the things to talk about specifically in the book is, and I asked the question, when was the last time you made a decision based on pure emotion that ever worked out in your favor? Right?
Zero.
Ever, dude.
Exactly.
I can't. There's
Big old donut.
You know, so and that's kind of the why I kind of put it there. I just used Jason Torrey's story, and I'm really, really thankful to Jason Torrey for telling me that story. And as a matter of fact, when I did the analysis paragraph, I even sent him like, "Hey, is this okay?" Like, I don't want to like insult him or anything, so I'm like, "Please don't kill me," right? But is this okay? I'm like writing it in a way where I'm like, "Is this okay?" He was fine with it, but ultimately, it was one of those things where I asked that question on purpose, right? Because I want the reader to think, "Oh, wow, you're right. I never made a decision based on pure emotion that ever worked out in my favor." And that's actually what politics is too. I talk about politics in the book too. Like I even asked the question, why do you think our politics is? Do you think it's based off of pure emotion? Or I make the statement, or is the decision based off of emotion, and then we use logic to justify that emotional decision afterwards, right? Kind of like you buying a car you didn't actually need, but then you use logic to justify it after the fact.
basically taking 2020 hindsight and saying, yeah, this is why I did what I did.
Right, but you could have just been better
okay.
without it, right? And the other one with situational awareness is, the same thing as far as like being aware, right? One of the things about the 4 firearm safety rules, right? You always want to treat a firearm like it's loaded. You always want to be aware of what's beyond your target, especially behind your target. You never want to point a firearm at anything you don't want to destroy, and always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire, right? Situational awareness. And that's just like the 4 basic safety rules, and that's universal. But the same thing is, at the same time, it's one of those things where you really, really have to think about it. You're like, am I really situationally aware every day? Like I said, this book it's structured around marksmanship, but if you actually understand what the core meaning is behind it, you can actually apply it to your daily lives, right? Another one you said was, what was the other one you said you wanted to know about?
As far as just as far the tying the philosophies together.
Oh yeah, emotional so
your self-vulnerability.
So self-vulnerability is the biggest thing, right? And this is something, and I know I'm probably going to piss off some people right now, but I don't really care. But self-vulnerability is the biggest thing. Like one of the biggest issues I have with my industry, specific firearms industry, is the over machismo-ness of just everything. Like if you go to if you go to like any kind of tactical store website or whatever, the 2 of the most common colors that you'll ever see are black and red. If you don't believe me, try it out. Just Google random, gun stores and tactical stores. You'll, for whatever reason, black and red seem to be a very common combination color, right? And its aggressiveness and its assertiveness, and all that, which is fine. But a lot of people can also contribute that to ego, right, and arrogance. Right. So like the funny thing is, like in the very beginning of the book, I mentioned that I am a professional. I'm not a master or an expert, because an expert denotes that I can learn absolutely zero from my field. To me, that's what that means. If you're an expert at it, there's literally nothing you can learn in this entire universe that can make you better in that profession, which I think is just completely horse crap. Right, because science is always evolving, right? That's why if as a professional you know your own vulnerabilities. I think it's either Socrates or Plato that said that when it comes to knowledge, the more you know, the more you realize
you don't know.
Right, yeah. And I live by that, right? Because I mean, I can learn something new all the time, and I always live by the example of like, for example, like I always ask some of my clients, what is the difference between a master and a student? Right. I always ask, what's the difference between a master and a student? What do you guys think it is?
I don't think there's a difference at all. Master's not so close to his position where he thinks that he can't learn something, because if you think, like a minute ago you said the experts. I've never known a master to call himself an expert, but they're damn good at what they do. So it's almost kind of like some of the things that you're talking about. It's like a lot of martial artists, how many things how many things get taught? It's not about fighting, it's about discipline, it's about attitude, it's about character, it's about behavior. It's about so much more goes into it. And that other thing is just the catalyst that brings your mind and your body to be able to learn and embrace. But you know what? There's always going to be a student that asks the right question, tries the right thing for the first time, and gets the master's mind thinking. He has to go back and think a little bit and then bring a new lesson back.
That's a good one. That's a really long way. The funny thing is, like the response that I always get, and I always tell people, is that the difference between a master and a student is that the master has and will make more mistakes than the student ever will.
Man, I feel like, okay, this is so weird, man, because this is the second conversation I've had today gone along this lines.
What's that?
People are afraid to fail.
Yeah.
People are afraid to fail. They're afraid, oh, I shouldn't do that because I shut myself down. Oh man, I shouldn't do that because I shut myself down. It's like and then if other people don't shoot us down, we shoot ourselves down. And the thing is if you don't get up and fail, and then get up again and fail again and get up again and maybe somewhat get a little bit better that time, if you don't continuously do that, it's like every single one of these episodes, just like podcasting. Someone was like, oh, how do I start my podcast? I'm like, just hit record. Find one thing, improve that. Hit record again.
I think
find another thing and improve that. It's like that. It's like that with everything. But I've failed so many times.
I mean, I think a lot of it too, and I'm not making a dig at public education at all whatsoever, but I guess I sort of am, but not intentionally. Is when you're going to school, one, they never teach you about money, and I think that's by design more than anything else. Because I personally, because I always ask who here's learned about money in school, and nobody ever raises their hands, right? But the second thing I've always noticed is that the primary education system from K to 12, even in our universities, they go by the A through F system, right? You either do very, very well, or you go all the way down to fail, right? And nobody wants to fail because it makes you feel bad. Every time you fail, you're freaking you get yelled at by your parents, and you get chastised by your friends, and your friends call you stupid and whatever, right? But it's been so ingrained in you since you're a kid. Maybe that's why people are afraid of failure. I'm just speculating. I don't know.
I think one of the best, I can't remember if it was a commencement or something, and then actually Chris and Yogi did a interview, I want to say about a month and a half ago. It was titled Failing Forward. And Chris, who was that you interviewed about that one? Who was that? It was Yogi's guy. It was, oh God, I'm spacing the guy's name. It was a great interview. But Denzel Washington just speaking about
it. Was Jim.
What is it?
I think it was Jim. It was either Jim or Jan. It was one of the two off the leadership podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just like, I want to say it's like Penn State or something, or Michigan or whatever, wherever. Anyway, but he really drilled down on failing forward. It's like go strive for something, learn from it, get scars, get bruised, get cut. And you know what? I mean, experiences are the way better teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a million things. Don't do this because I got told, don't reach on top of the stove. I don't know how many times my mom and dad told me that. I said, well, one day I reached up there and burned my hand. Ironic thing, that was the last time I ever reached on top of the stove. I mean, it's kind of a gross analogy, but from a bigger picture, Edison, how many light bulbs did he try? What was it, like the 82nd try? 81 failures, but nobody remembers him for that.
Edison? I think no, I think Edison was like I think Edison was like 9,000 something failures.
Oh, like even more so,
Yeah.
but he's regarded as one of the best inventors ever.
For the record, it was Jesse Kendrick. Jesse Kendrick that was failing forward. And yeah, he had some really, really good points because this guy gets out of the military and he finds a good job, and then that ends, and now he's finding his next big thing. He just talks about like how, hey, we fail at things, but that's a lesson to be learned. And it's something that's always ingrained in us. How many times have you guys done a debriefing and it's like, all right, break out the lessons learned, and sometimes you're like more like lessons repeated.
Mm-hmm.
We take some time and look at our failures as an opportunity, as things not to repeat.
But that's also why the military, I think, is so great at learning because, the again, not to bash our traditional school system, but I think it's kind of warranted here is that the military is full of real teachers, right? If somebody's going to teach you how to shoot a rifle, he's probably been in combat and he's been there and done that, right? I always think it's funny how someone from school that teaches you about the economy and about business, and then when you ask them, well, what kind of practical experience do you have? Oh, I just teach here, or I just work here and I teach this stuff because I earned a degree. I'm like, so you're basically fucking useless.
Dude, the best professors I ever had were the adjuncts. The guys that had like a job doing that stuff. But those guys that went from school to more school to graduate to go teach some school to get a doctorate to teach at more school and just like he says. But the adjuncts, man, one of my favorite. He was like a career narc. He's like, oh man, we were doing this freaking stake I hit there. We had this op going in there with guns, and like the whole class, we're all like leaning in. It's like, oh man, this is going to be some good shit. But, the adjuncts, man, you're like, they took today's business deal that they lost. You're like, yeah, today I blew it big time. Today I lost a case and my guy's freaking getting fined 300,000, dude. This dude's, and he's just like, this is what we're going to learn. Yeah, that best education, it's experience.
It is. And the thing is, like, you can't get that from reading a book. And sometimes I feel like, and again, it's not in all the cases, but I think a lot of the universities, they have that where, it's like, oh, you get hired here because, you learn from a book your entire life. And you as military guys know that, book theory and practice are two very different things.
Yeah. And that's a societal thing, right? We need to look at teachers as more of a distinguished spot. So, for example, I would love to see more people that have life experience become teachers. You know what I'm saying? Because they are teaching our generations to come. And right now, I'm not saying there's something wrong with young teachers. I'm not saying that at all. But we need to have a good mix of those who have actual life experience. And also, as parents, we also need to make sure that we are also involved in educating our own kids. And
well, I don't want to have kids because it's
yeah.
No, don't say that, dude. Freaking makes
but then, bro, when they cuddle up with you, man, and your daughter comes up to you and she grabs your hand, she says, "Daddy, I love you." Yeah.
Oh, speak those words, bro.
Yeah. Done. Yeah. Done. Yeah. It's something else, man.
No, I think it's really, really great. I think I just like, it's kind of funny. People are like, oh, how come you don't have kids? And I'm like, well, I got my dog.
Where it starts, bro. Fur babies.
Yeah. I got my dog and I got my cat. They fucking hate each other, but they have to live with each other. So,
hey, Paul, let me ask you something. So,
yeah.
in your last article you submitted to veterans, Johnny Walker, did you personally experience, or was that an interview?
Oh, I met him.
Oh, dude,
Hey, hold on.
God,
Oh,
dude, gotta. Can you tell us a story about that, man? And like,
so he actually, so
what was ultimately your team's greatest reward and satisfaction about working with him and then getting him resettled into the U.S.?
I mean, honestly, it was interviews. So I actually met Johnny or Jason Tushin, the Navy SEAL, through Johnny Walker. So they came at the same time because this is his book. I don't want to plug his book, but I will. This is a codename Johnny Walker. Him and when he met me, excuse me, him and Jason Tushin both signed the book, so it was kind of awesome. But I'm sorry, what was the question, Nooch?
Oh no, I was just trying to say, so like, the story of it, like, what can you say about him? Like the ultimate, what was the team's ultimate rewards and satisfaction? Like, obviously they worked with him over there, codename Johnny Walker, you know the name. But for everything that he did with the team, obviously it was, here you are working abroad. And there was one other question I want to get at you with working with, abroad multinational force. So I'm going to forego that one. But what was the best part about working with him? And what was the best reward about getting him resettled to the U.S.?
I never worked with him. I just
Yeah.
interviewed, right? So, but I mean, when I interviewed him, he was very, very personable. I remember doing it in the garage, and he was wearing some shirt with some kind of writing on it. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he'd actually forgotten about the meeting, and I messaged him. He goes, "Oh crap!" So he hopped on real quick. Um, but I mean, from what he told me on his story was that he was the craziest one. He was a basketball player when Saddam was when Saddam was still in power. He played for the Iraqi national basketball team, from what I remember, and because he's really tall, right? And he was talking about a story about when the American forces invaded, he had nothing in his pocket. Matter of fact, he said at one point he had like 50 cents, and he had to figure out what he was going to do with that to feed his wife and his family. And he initially started working with a military police company, and eventually what ended up happening was he was saying that the military, not the military police people, but some of the people in the command were a little bit worried because of how aggressive he was. When I say aggressive, not towards the U.S. forces, I'm talking about aggressive, like, oh yeah, let's kick down doors. Like he was in it, and that's how he actually got started working with the SEALs, because he was that guy. And he is the only, from what I understood, that he is the only Iraqi national to be an honorary member of the Navy SEAL. He can wear the Navy SEAL trident. He is literally allowed to wear the Navy SEAL trident in public.
Wow, the team gave
So
him.
he didn't.
Cool.
Yeah. So he is an honorary Navy SEAL. He's I think his name's actually in the Navy SEAL list. Like they made him a Navy SEAL without going through Bud's training. But he's a very, very humble dude. Right now, I know he goes around the country doing speeches, and he travels with Jason Tushin a lot. They're like inseparable buddies right now. I think Jason Tushin was the one that I believe got him out of Iraq when times got tough over there. And he's so happy. I mean, don't get me wrong, he hates our president, he hates our governor, but he freaking loves America.
So in the time like working there, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead. I wasn't gonna ask it. What was the most beneficial thing working with foreign forces that helped shape you personally and professionally? And what were the rewards about working abroad with our allies?
The most rewarding, let's see here. Honestly, it was learning their culture, man. It was always kind of like, for me, it was kind of a unique experience because I was the only Asian guy there. So it was kind of like, oh, and then I always loved my two nicknames were Jackie Chan or Jet Li, depending on whether or not I was in Fallujah or Mosul. So like, oh, Jackie Chan.
Wow,
And
this
then they're
inclusion.
like, oh, do you know Kung Fu? And I'm like, I wanted to choke the living crap out of them, right? But
Tell him, yeah, I know Kung Fu.
yeah, so but I mean, working with them was great. I mean, some of them, the older people that were kind of like overall less trusting, it was a little bit more trying. I did see a lot of the corruption that was there. For example, in Fallujah, there was a full-bird colonel that was answering to a major, which I thought was weird. right? How does that work, right? So there was a level of corruption there that I don't even know if I can talk about that, but there's a level of corruption there that had to do with some types of deals being made on the back end. Um, but even with the corruption, they basically said, hey, you know what, we'll work with you, we'll take your money, and we need this, we need this, we need new body armor, we'll do patrols. As long as we played nice, they were fine. The Army was called in to Fallujah because they were, I guess, they were having some problems with the Marines or something, but in Fallujah in 08. But we were actually stationed so we were entrenched with the Marines. So we're actually allowed to wear the 1st Marine patch. So that was awarded to us. So we stayed with the Marines for about the entire time we were in Fallujah, and they were our security detail. So we would go to these police stations and then kind of do the training and take over everything else. And then we'd have a Marine platoon. Oh, no, I'm sorry, a Marine squad be our backup in the back end. And again, as long as we played civil and we were nice, and then we said thank you a lot, and then we played nice. They were okay. I mean, some the rank and file police officers were great people. It's the officers that were a little bit on the shady side, but that was just my suspicion. I never really looked into it. I don't know if that really answers your question, though. Sorry.
Well, no, yeah, it was kind of like I was looking at also too is like, for instance, I lived overseas quite a bit. One of the things I always liked about working overseas or living overseas really is like when you're on the outside looking in, you just kind of start looking at our home country with a little bit different of a lens, almost a little bit through the lens of our host country, but then, you already said like that you absolutely loved working with the foreign nationals, of course, as did, I over in Japan. And then Chris got a little taste of that, not just a handful of years ago, but did that change Paul Peng? Did it shape you a little bit? Like what did living overseas do that you might probably would not have become had you never been there? I guess that's kind of what I was getting at.
Well, I definitely heard the pop, right? My head came out of my ass. That's for damn sure. I don't think I would have started a business. I don't think I would have pursued my master's. I don't think I would have done a lot of things had it not been in the military. I'll be completely honest with you. I always tell people like the military was probably one of the best decisions I ever made, and also the worst at the same time, because I saw the best that the military could offer, but I also saw the worst that the military could offer, which is the PTSD, the nightmares, all the other psychological headaches that people have to do with leaving the military. So I got the best of both worlds, but like, would I do it all over again the same? Yeah, probably. I guess you can say I was probably one of the lucky ones that didn't completely give into the the darker parts of that, I guess.
Yeah. It's something that is kind of taboo for us to all talk about is taking care of our mental fitness. We talk a lot about physical fitness and all that stuff. And the Navy SEALs have actually adopted and been part of the warrior toughness stuff. That's probably why they're a little bit more resilient, is because they've actually been doing mental fitness for a while. And it's something that I know the Navy has changed, is talking about warrior fitness, which is mind, body, soul. And the thing is for us, it was kind of taboo to even talk about it while we were in. Like, it's healthy to talk to people about what you have, your trauma. If you don't have somebody that shared in the trauma with you, like a fellow tribe member, or like someone that served with you overseas, or somebody that was in your unit, or somebody that had a similar thing, you miss out on that. You're missing that connection. But you need to find somebody to talk to about your stuff while you're still in. Like, you need to find that confidence.
Yeah. And one of the things that, because one One of the things I've also noticed is that this next generation of military personnel going in and coming out, especially after we left Afghanistan, is that a lot of veterans, like guys like me and you and Nooch, we probably can't relate to the younger generation when I'm saying this next wave of veterans coming in, because they're coming in at a time of peace. Right. And I think that also has a lot to do with it too. I also think part of it is like you said, the Navy SEALs, they were built for this stuff, but they also have a much tighter knit community than let's say the conventional forces. Right now, you have certain conventional forces that have been through thick and thin, that have lost 50% casualties. Yes, they have PTSD and all that, but but if you actually look at their unit cohesion, even years after they leave, they still meet every single year.
Yeah, and they have a ton of resources like the C4 Foundation,
Right.
The Seal of Honor Foundation. Like there's so many different foundations out there that are formed for them, and it's like a support network. And let's say you want to be a business owner and you're a SEAL. Well, guess what? You're going to get it if you put yourself into it. They will help you push yourself into there. And hey, that's great, man. I'm so glad that they formed that, man, because I mean, a lot of them are worthy of it. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely.
I'm not saying that the conventional forces are less fortunate or less worthy of getting it. But I really do think it's because we're less organized. I think if we were to organize a group that did it, oh wait, there is, but we don't talk about it because we're used to telling us that we're not, we're not going to make it. So that's where we need to start talking about you can make it. You are worthy. And just because you weren't a Navy SEAL doesn't mean that you can't be a badass in the things that you do.
No, I was a military policeman, man. But you know what's funny? You can't get mad at me because I never gave out a ticket because I never did a day in garrison. So, nobody can get mad at me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I never. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I don't. The military gave me what I needed, but the funny thing is, like me starting my business now, like tomorrow I'm teaching another class. I'm like tired from yesterday, but because I have something going on Wednesday, I literally move my classes. Not looking forward to it, but it's fine.
Oh man, dude. Can't thank you enough for taking the time out with the tribe today, man. That's badass.
Yeah. No, it's great, but it's just like I said, it's remember how I told you about how I wanted to quit every single day? Dude, I can't you ask my fiance every time I talk, I'm gonna talk to her tonight, I want to retire. Every fucking time I talk to her, I want to retire, right? But it's one of those things where I kind of like mentally I just do like a mental dump on her, and then I just give her all my shit, and then the very next day I put my pants up one leg at a time and just go grind again,
It's good that you get messy in front of her because then that allows you to be organized out in front of everybody else.
Yeah.
It's somewhat healthy in some circumstances. And being a father, I learned that I would much rather my children get messy and mess up and say the wrong thing in front of me right then and there, because that means that they're not going to do it out on the outside, because they know that it's a safe environment for them to let go and release that negative energy and stuff, man. So
yeah, and plus you don't want them to make that mistake out there because you don't know what the consequences are.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I'm not gonna they're going to make plenty of mistakes, but at least they're not going to make those mistakes. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we go into the save rounds and alibis?
No, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. This is interesting. I really had no idea what to expect when I first came on here. I was just let's see where this goes.
Yeah, honestly, it's like I tell everybody, man, it's not Chris and Nuccio's show. It's not Nuccio and Yogi's show. It's your show. It's our show. It's the tribe. And it's these conversations right here that are super important for us to all have with each other, because this is what it's all about, man. Sitting here and shooting shit. You know, you were in the Army, we were in the Navy. So what? We all served. We all had our capacity, you know? So, all right, let's go into the save round and alibis. All right, man. What book, podcast, content do you recommend people that are transitioning out of the military and reintegrating into the community?
Oh, let's see here. I got one right now. It is. This is one of them that I read. He's Herb Thompson. I don't know if you know. He's a Green Beret. Oh, sorry, lower.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Herb Thompson, The Transition Mission. This is one. It's pretty good. He's a retired Green Beret. It's kind of cool. He actually signed my book, which is kind of cool. So I actually met him on basically he signed my book. But yeah, he whoops, sorry.
Yeah, at least it wasn't a dick pic.
There he goes. But yeah, this book is kind of cool, right? So it's literally called The Green Beret's Approach to Transition from Military Service. That's literally what the book title is called. And it talks about a whole bunch of different things in here about what to do when you get out, about using LinkedIn, about using resources that are available out there. I actually met him. Actually, this is a LinkedIn connection. I interviewed him a couple times. He's a really cool dude. He's like super freaking popular on LinkedIn, by the way. Every time he posts, he has like 2,000-3,000 reactions every single freaking time.
What was that author's name again, real quick, Paul?
Herb Thompson. Here.
Say it again. Herb Thompson. Thanks.
Yeah. So you could probably get him on this show. You probably join you guys. It's really cool to talk to him. Another one, like I said, this is what I read to start my business. I don't know if it'll help, but it definitely maybe put some drive into people. You never know what would actually help. This is another one.
Required reading for everyone that's 18 and younger.
In all honesty, guys, it's $8. Like, look, it's literally $8. If you don't like it, you can toss it in the trash. It's $8. Everybody can afford $8.
Totally, dude.
That's cheaper than a McDonald's bill, bro.
Your pumpkin spice latte is more expensive than that.
Yeah, and the amount of knowledge in this book is insane. It's a really thick ass book too. It's not exactly a thin book.
It's PSL, man. PSL.
Hey, Paul. So next round. What is? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have another? Oh no.
Hey, hold up, David Goggins. Hey, apparently Nuccio wants to get his ass whooped by Goggins or something like that.
I think it's so, dude.
Yeah, I actually read this book. I'm like, dude, and honestly, if I could be, I always tell people, if I could be half the guy this guy is, I'd be good. If I could be half the guy this guy is, I'd be good. Just half, not even like 3/4. It's just half.
What I love about this dude is everybody, man, this guy, I joined his little Facebook group. I listened to the dude. I've read his books. I listened to his books. I listened to all this stuff. And it cracks me up because everybody thinks that, oh man, he's so motivational. He even comes out and tells you, he's like, I'm not a motivational guy. I just tell you don't suck.
Yeah.
And he's like, his life is just so crazy, man. And all the bullshit that he's gone through. That's the thing, man. He talks about the bullshit that we all go through, man. All of us have our own level of bullshit. But sometimes when shit gets hard, man, we just want to fold up and roll over. He's just a direct representation of what happens when you don't roll over and you
and which is why I like this book so much, because in a way it kind of reminds me of me, because he uses anger to as a reason to succeed. I mean, he's doing it times 35,000, but you get the point.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a lot longer, and I think a lot of people forget that he was older when he joined the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
He was not, and he was in the Air Force before that. So he was a lot better at doing it he had done it, failed, done it, failed, done it, failed, like we were talking about earlier. And that's why when you tell me that, oh man, this guy's doing it like 35,000 times more, he's just ahead of you a little bit, man. That's it.
I don't know, man. I
He
don't know
may
if I
be
could go
holding
through
up a
buds with a broken bone
I
for
mean,
4 weeks. I don't know about that one, dude.
yeah, but we all don't have the same trials and tribulations, man.
Right. Like you have to be some serious dedicated to go through 4 weeks of buds with a broken, was it shin bone or something? A broken shin?
Yeah, that guy was all messed up. And then yeah, some of the stories he tells about his marathon running, bro. Oh God. And then
Running 100 miles. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
my favorite story is like, yeah, when my hands turn white as snow. I'm like, what? Because he has he has that issue with his blood not circulating in his body.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy just cracks me up, man. My favorite story was probably when he missed his turn because he was following his spotter, his run buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about, he's like, it wasn't my run buddy's fault. It was my fault. It was my fault for not for completely trusting on that person without questioning it. And a lot of people don't ask questions. And that dude asks a lot of questions. Guarantee it. Yeah. My good one. Go ahead, Nooch. Sorry.
No, man, I was a little getting overzealous there for a sec. So what does Paul Peng tell 17-year-old Paul Peng to help him start preparing for transition when he gets out?
I would honestly tell my older self to don't listen to other people. Don't let people influence you. Make your own decisions. And I know me when I was 17 because I was extremely gullible. You could tell me aliens live next door, and I'd probably believe. That's how gullible I was. And that's no exaggeration either. Okay, I was the most gullible person on the planet. But now looking back on it, that probably might have been a blessing in disguise because that same gullibility allows me to be open-minded enough to see more than one side, right? So I would tell myself, don't lose that gullibility. Just, be a little bit more aware and do your whole research before you make a decision. I would tell myself, maybe not to just be prepared for what your life is about to bring you, because there is going to be some good points, but there's going to be a lot of suck in there.
And get ready to start embracing all of that.
Yep.
Not gullible, like if you say oranges slow enough, or if you say gullible slow enough, it sounds just like oranges.
Dude, I think when I say gullible, I literally think like somebody said, "Oh, someone's gonna rob you tonight," with like no evidence whatsoever, and I believed it. This was like in like ninth grade or something. Like I had like some bullies that wanted to bully me, and they literally told me that, and I freaking like hid in a hole somewhere. I was so damn gullible, it was ridiculous.
Man. A lot of that stuff that we kind of lived through, man. What you were saying about I would tell myself don't be gullible. I don't know, man. I like the Paul Peng I know right now. If you weren't gullible at first, you wouldn't have evolved into the person that you are today, man.
That is true, but I think part of that also probably had to do with the fact that I went to Iraq twice and all that other stuff too. I don't think because so here's the thing, right? I always have a joke because I have two younger brothers that are twins, and they're you don't laugh too hard when I tell you this, but they look like the typical Asians, right? They're into anime, and one of them is married to a Japanese woman that's super freaking Japanese, and I'm literally talking like they go to a Japanese market and everything in the room is Japanese, and then the other one is is an entire bookworm. So sometimes I kind of wonder if I didn't go in the military, if I would have turned out exactly like them. It's like I look at them like the Paul Peng that didn't join the military, right? And they don't work out. They're super light skinned, super. Not saying that they're not mentally strong or anything like that, but my mom flat out said, because so here I'll give you an example, right? So my mom, she's going through cancer right now, so I have to take care of her whenever I can. But she lives with my brother, and every single time she runs into issues with like Social Security Administration or with Medicare or Medicaid or whatever, she calls me, and I'm like, my brother is 5 feet from your damn door. Why don't you bug him? Right? And then she literally says, she goes, "Oh, he doesn't understand anything." I'm like, and that's the problem. Stop treating him like a kid and let him do something for you. Right? But I mean, and I literally told my mom the other day, I'm like, you told me this for the longest time, and now all of a sudden you trust me. Why? She goes, "Oh, because you've proven yourself." Oh, thanks. Like, I wanted to say no thanks to you, but I mean, I could say that to her face, but it kind of gets to but the military, that's why I'm saying the military was the best and the worst parts, because the military forced me to grow up. That's why, Nooch, when asked that question, I said, during my time, I heard the pop, right? That was my head coming out of my ass. Yeah, I don't know when it happened. I just know it happened.
So, when you were transitioning out of the military, how did you get in the proper mindset?
I didn't. I was an alcoholic for a year after I left. As a matter of fact, my roommate had to, well, actually, my roommate at the time, after I came out, this is literally after I just left the service, she had to, she had to call me to move my car, and she stopped knocking on my door because I couldn't go to bed unless I had a gun underneath my pillow. Right, because that's what I got used to. And one time apparently she walked in on me because we had tandem parking. So in order to move my car, she had to move my car, then move hers with all that other stuff. And I woke up thinking she was Al Qaeda because I was having a nightmare at the time. I didn't grab my gun, but I did jump up to her and I grabbed her I didn't grab her but I grabbed her by the collar of her shirt and I slammed her up against the wall. And then she had to call me and say, "Hey, wake up, wake up." And then I had to snap out of it. This was literally probably 4 months after it came out. And then it wasn't transitioning. It was horrible. And then because of that, I became an alcoholic because I felt so damn bad that happened, became an alcoholic for a whole year. So I don't, when you say like, how was my transition? I don't know. It was chaotic. I didn't have anybody to go to. Who was I going to go to? My mom? I had nobody. Right. So I turned towards the bottle like a lot of veterans do. I think I was polishing off. I think at my worst, I was clearing off 2 bottles of wine a night and I wasn't even drunk. And for an Asian, that says a lot because Asians get drunk like fast.
What was it that guided you to your purpose? How did you find your purpose, and what happened after you found your purpose with your mentally? Like, what happened to you spiritually?
Are you talking about purposes in terms of like my business or purposes in terms of
Purpose isn't business, man.
Oh, no, right. No, honestly, my purpose is honestly I didn't know. I thought it was to make money, and then I was able to make a lot of money at the port, and then I found out I was fucking miserable. I hated my job every day. I started my business, but it's getting to the point now where ever since I got engaged to my fiance, my purpose is her. And that sounds kind of stupid and kind of cheesy, but it kind of but it kind of is. It's her. Like I just want to spend as much time with her as possible, and that's making me want to speed up my passive income that much faster. Because our goal is honestly just to live and pass. I don't want to be rich. I'm not looking to make millions of dollars. I'm just looking to make enough money passively every month so where I can live comfortably. That's it. That's my only goal, right? Because what I want to do with her is I want to travel the world and go to Thailand where I can live off $1,000 and live like a king. You know what I'm saying? So that's like my purpose is her. Like I want to make sure that she's happy. I want to make sure she's taken care of, which is funny because when she's over here, she does the same thing to me. She takes care of me. Like every time I go to class, like obviously CW class tomorrow, or I'm sorry, yesterday, she made me lunch, like from scratch before I went to teach. And then when I came home, I had food ready. Right. And like we just enjoyed being with each other. And then we would do something stupid and she would make a comment and would sit there and laugh for like 15 minutes nonstop. You know, and it's funny because a lot of people think like, oh, you know, your purpose in life is money, your purpose in life is to help people, your purpose in life. Okay, sure. Well, if that's your purpose, fine, right? But I think everybody has their own specific purpose, but I believe it has to do with something, whether it's helping your wife, which is really helping people, or helping the community. Either way, shape, or form, I think, you know, finding the purpose is unique to each individual person. And I'm like I said, my purpose right now is my fiance. That's it. That's the only thing that matters. Like, you know, I've been in 2 movies. I've spoken at Disneyland. I've actually been recognized by U.S. Congresswoman Michelle Steele on her Facebook page last week. Doesn't really matter. Don't care. But my fiance matters. Right. It's just because the thing is that, like, literally 5-10 years from now, no one's going to ever remember you existed anyways, except for the people that you love.
That was who was it? This person asked Keanu Reeves, what happens when you die? And he had the greatest answer ever. He said that the people that love you miss you. And it was just kind of like, man, that's pretty legit. But purpose-driven life, man. Warren wrote that one. That's actually that's a pretty good read. It's kind of a lot of similar parallels to what you're speaking to. You know, find purpose, let it drive, and what fuels. How would you be reachable for people that would want to seek a little bit of coaching or school and info, or just to be able to network? How do people get hold of you? Do you have a Gram, website, Facebook? What's your
So LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Just search my name. For Facebook, it's just search my name, Paul Peng, P-E-P-A-U. Well, it's on there. For Instagram, it's at Century Institute Inc. So that's going to be pretty much at, and then basically, you know, my company name, all in one word together. You can see a lot of the stuff that we do there. We're actually starting a 3rd movie production called Sensor Addiction. We start filming in March of next year. So I get to play Commander Chan. Yay. Which is basically some SWAT guy that gets his ass kicked. So it's fine.
Huh. You're gonna allow that, dude? You took that role? Don't take your ass kicking, dude. Go with some.
Well, I pretty much, but by the way, the whole like movie thing, it's not, if I get ahead in Hollywood, fine, but if I don't really care. It's one of those things where it's like a bucket list where I can say I was in a movie and I can prove it with an actual footage of it. So that's literally the only reason behind it. There's nothing else.
Or in this case, 3 productions too. So that's what's up, dude.
Right.
No, that's badass, man. I love it.
Yeah. So, alrighty.
Yeah. Hey, brother. Like, thank you for coming on to the show. I know a lot of people are like, man, what are we going to talk about? See, made it. It's just talking about things that matter, man.
Mm-hmm.
We really do appreciate you coming on here and sharing some of your stories, sharing some of your experiences. So thank you, man.
Of course. Thank you guys so much.
So to all of our listeners, we have Paul on here. The dude was a reservist, and then after service, he ended up finding his own path, and that's doing all the weapons training and security and all that stuff. He shared a whole bunch of great stories. I hope you guys take a listen to it, heed some of his things on here. The common theme over and over again is don't be afraid to fail. All right, brothers and sisters, it's your transition. It's not all unicorns and rainbows. Take charge of it. Mil2Vet out.
Sooner or later, the right one that just freaking perpetuates and accelerates, dude. Hold the fucking phone. Hey, come here, Chris. Come here. Up a little closer. Pick your shirt up. 500. I want to see that belt. Is that a freaking duty belt? That's a duty belt. You're wearing freaking NW. Mark, look at this.
So, like the outside?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Fuck. Oh, that's garbage. Oh, that's garbage. Oh, Thomas Blythe would be so proud right now.
Oh yeah. You see that?
Oh,
You see that? Fucking Bryce. All right, I
Damn.
should let this guy in.